guys, Donald here with the Dirt Doctor University. Today we got introduction to running a CAT D4 Dozer, but first we're going to do a walk around the machine. I'm going to show you everything you need to look for. We're going to get in the seat, I'll show you all the controls, and let's get pushing. When I'm walking up to a machine, normally I'm always looking to see if it's leaning a certain way, which would normally indicate like a flat tire. On something like this, it's a track machine. So I'm gonna look at, the very first thing is the tracks. So I wanna look at my grousers. I wanna make sure that what I'm doing that day, if the grousers are worn out, it's not gonna put me in harm's way. So if it's real worn out, I don't wanna be tracking crazy 1.5 to 1s or anything like that. Second thing I'm gonna look at is my sprockets, okay? To make sure that they're not all worn out and super, sharp. I don't want to slip anything. I don't want to skip a tooth or anything. Then I'm going to look at my rollers. After the rollers are good, I'm going to stand back and I'm going to look at the track. I want to make sure that there's some type of slack in it, but I don't want it to be too much slack. I also don't want it to be too tight because you don't want to be binding as you're going either, okay? So those are the primary things. Outside of that, I'm looking for any rust, okay? Because rust sometimes will indicate like a loose bolt. So if there's any like bolts with rust coming down, I know it's loose, okay? So I want to take a look at that. As I move forward and I know everything's good here, I'm going to walk to the front of the machine. The first thing I'm going to look at, I'm either going to start from the bottom and work to the top, or the top and work from the bottom. My trunnion ball. Okay, I want to make sure that that looks like it's in good working order. There's no loose bolts or anything. That's actually what makes this be a 6-way. That's what everything pivots off of. I want to make sure it's greased. I want to make sure that nothing looks out of the ordinary in the front of the machine. As I move to the front of the machine, again, starting from the bottom going up, I have my cutting edges. Make sure that my cutting edges are in good working condition. I don't want to be that operator that just gets in the machine and starts going. Because if the cutting edge is gone and I'm wearing out my board, I'm the one that's going to get in trouble from not taking a look at it, okay? As we walk to this side, I'll go through the same thing on the tracks. Once I know that everything's good and the same thing on the tracks is good, they're not too tight, they're not too loose, all the rollers look good, the sprockets look good, the grousers look good, let's go ahead and step on up. Okay, step up. Now it's time for me to check my fluids, okay? When I go to check my fluids, I always make sure the door locks so it doesn't hit me in case it's windy or in case the machine is a little off camber. So the first thing I'm gonna look at is my oil. Check my oil, okay? Pull the oil out. Everything looks good on the oil. Throw the oil back in, okay? If I need to add oil, I know that I'm gonna add oil right here, okay? After checking my oil, most of the time I'll pound out the air filter. Air filter's right here. I already did this prior to the video. Go ahead and shut this. And then I'm also gonna check my radiator fluid. Make sure that I've got enough coolant in it. Once we're done with this, and we know that the motor is good, we know that the tracks are good. Inside here I have the air filter for my air conditioning system. I've already checked it, that's good. As you can see, it's right here. I moved to the back of the machine. I'm gonna be looking at my rippers. I wanna make sure that my rippers are in good working condition. I don't want these to be worn out where it's getting into my shank, because that would make it where I'd have to replace the shank as well. Once I'm done with that, I look at the back of my machine just to make sure that there's no wet spots underneath it, that I didn't notice something that was blown or if it's leaking or anything like that. So I just make sure there's no wet spots. And now that I'm getting to the end of my walk around, it's time for me to turn on my batteries, okay? So I will come over to this side of the machine, open it up, and I wanna make sure that my batteries are on, okay? An important little side note is that when you're done running your machine, you can't just shut the machine off and run back here and shut off the batteries. The old school machines you could, but these new ones, the DEF system has to purge and it has to do all this stuff with the DEF. So you got to actually kind of wait a little bit before you can shut off your batteries. But I know that the batteries are on now and we're good to go. Again, I'll unlock the door because you don't want to get hit by one of these. They hurt. Let's get pushing. Very first thing that I'm going to do when I get in the machine is I put my seatbelt on. Safety is number one, and we never want to get dead at work. Belt on, I need to adjust my seat. I want to make sure that the seat's not too far back from my decelerator. I don't want to be reaching for the decelerator, but I also don't want my knees to be cramped up on it. This is the position that I like to be in, and it's perfect for me. I can be here all day. The second thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that my backrest isn't too far back, so I'm like laying down, because you're not going to be doing that all day for 8 hours, and I don't want to be sitting up too far. Once that position is good, I want to check the height of my seat. I could lift my seat up, or I could lower my seat down. I don't want the seat sitting on the ground, because then if I hit a bump, I don't want to be compressing my back just in case. Okay, so I want to make sure that the seat's at the height that I want it at. Once the seat's at the height that I want it at, and I have my controls that are right here at the position I want these, because this is just the ergonomics of my arms and just being here, then I'm ready to fire the machine up. Now when I go to fire the machine up, I gotta let it cycle for a second. So I'm gonna turn the key on, the machine's gonna yell at me because it's gonna tell me that the parking brake's on, it's gonna tell me to put my seatbelt on. I let it sit for about 5 to 10 seconds so it can build the fuel pressure, make sure everything's good, and then I'm gonna light it up. So on position, yelling at me. I can see all the gauges, everything's good right here. Couple seconds, let's light her. Okay, so now that she's lit up, if your seat is already on the ground, now that the machine's running, the compressor for your air seat is on. So I can push on this and it's gonna lift my seat up, okay? Now I'm sitting on it, I'm gonna lift my butt up a little bit just to give it some help. As you can see, it's kind of still going. So there we go. This is a good height right here. I have enough movement in the seat where I'm not gonna hit the floor, but I'm not having my head in the lid either, okay? So after we get everything lit up and going, let's go over what the controls do. This is a good time to go over it too, because we can let the machine warm up, and the machine's actually cycling the position that it's in and all the stuff that it does inside of its own computer, okay? So first things first, the controls. On the controls here, we have, this is gonna be for my rippers in the back. This is gonna be up or down. Now, very first thing to even get those rippers to go, I have to hit the button that is gonna release to let the controls work. Because I can lock the controls where I lock the controls and nothing works at all. I can lift, I can push, whatever, nothing's gonna work. So you have to unlock the controls right here. After I unlock the controls, I can lower and lift my rippers, which is right here. I have my throttle from 0 to 100%, okay? Now remember, when I turn this throttle up, I have to have the decelerator pushed in, because as I lift the decelerator out is what gives it throttle, okay? So you have your throttle, you have your traction control, whether you run it or not. They offer the traction control because it's so hard on a piece of equipment to spin track. So these newer tractors have traction control in them, okay? So you're not sitting here spinning track, pushing the pile or whatever, because it's just so hard on the undercarriage. Outside of my traction control, I have heater for my controls if I need to heat them up, and I also have my parking brake, okay? Now moving on to the controls, my left-hand control is what's gonna cover me going forward, neutral, and reverse. So if I push it forward, I'd be going forward when I let the decelerator out. This is pretty much my parking, or you could call it like neutral. It's in between your forward and reverse, and then here's my reverse. As you can hear, the backup beeper is on, okay? If I wanna turn left, I'm just gonna push the control to the left. If I wanna turn right, I'm gonna move it to the right. That's all that this is gonna do. Outside of that, you have these buttons here. None of these buttons are activated right now, so this would be for like slope boards. But on the bottom, you have this roller. The roller is what's gonna control my gears. My gears are gonna range from 0.1 up to, you know, however high I want. But on the Dozer, it's gonna be like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So we'll get into what gears to go in later on. but that's gonna be doing my forward and reverse gears is right here. On this joystick, if I pull it back, it lifts our board. If I push it down, it drops our board. If I go to the right, it's gonna angle my board. If I go to the left, it's gonna angle my board. I also have a roller on this board. If I roll it to the right, it's gonna angle my board to the right to allow me to like heel material to a certain way, or even like cut a V-ditch, or however I wanna manipulate this machine. I could also roll it to the left. When you do this, this is what's called a 6-way. It has 6 different ways that it can go, instead of just being a stationary push and angle, that's it. First things first, I need to go ahead and I'm gonna make it where I unlock everything, okay? So that's gonna be right here next to my parking brake. Now, as you can see, the parking brake's still on, but I'm gonna show you what this thing does first, okay? So I'm gonna push my decelerator in and I'm gonna turn my throttle up. I have to turn my throttle up so I can create hydraulic pressure, okay? And you should always be running with good throttle. So if I pull back, it's gonna lift my board up, okay? And as you see, I'm pulling back gently. This is all electro-hydraulic, so it's very sensitive. If I just barely stab it, it's gonna move. So I wanna be real gentle, nice and easy. I'm not gripping it really hard, I'm just barely pushing, okay? Now I'm gonna lean it to the left. So as you can see, my board will lean to the left. I'm gonna lean it to the right. Now I'm gonna roll it to the right as if I'm gonna heel material over. And now I'm gonna roll it to the left. Okay? And I wanna show you, like me going fast, I'm gonna go all the way. That's as fast as it'll go to the right. Now, what if I wanna go like nice and easy? Look, it's all in the touch of my finger. If I push it hard and fast, it's gonna go fast, you know? So you do have control of the speed of this, and that's why I'm trying to tell you to just be light on the controls, okay? So now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and get going. I'll pull forward, we'll start pushing going that way. The very first thing that I'd like to go over, so now I'm gonna release my parking brake and we're ready to rock and roll. As you can see, it's in neutral right now, and I have a forward speed of a 1.8 and I have a reverse speed of a 2.2, okay? This is a beginner video, so we're gonna drop that forward speed down. Now, if it's in neutral and I'm doing this, you can see that it drops by 2 on my reverse and it drops by 2 on my forward, okay? But I wanna drop it down to about a 1.5 to a 1.4 since this is beginner stuff. We could even go slower than that. Now, if I wanna only focus on the forward, then I'm gonna put it in forward and I could go incrementally down, you know, 1.2, 1.1, whatever. And the same thing with reverse. If I go to reverse, I could drop her down too, okay? So now it'd be set like that in my reverse and my forward, okay? So let's go ahead and turn. So as far as turning, with me going forward, again, I'm just pushing forward and it's not gonna go anywhere until I let that decelerator up. So I'm starting to just really easy let my decelerator up, and I'm gonna turn to the left, so I'm just gonna turn the joystick. I'm gonna push the joystick over to the left. Okay, the harder I push to the left is the more it's gonna be a sharper turn. If I wanna go easy, as you can see, I'm going easier, or I'm gonna just cut it and it'll pull this one backwards and that track forward, okay? So now, the very first thing that I wanna do as like a beginner operator, again, we're gonna slow ourselves down. I'm gonna go nice and easy and slow. What I'm looking at is I'm not looking at the front out this window at all. I wanna look at the corner of my board on each side where I could see the cutting edges. That's my focus 100% is this, okay? And for the first exercise, how about let's just get the board where it's about 1/4 of an inch to like 3/100ths into the ground. I don't want to load this whole board up automatically. I want to get used to the tractor. With me doing this, I'm going to be able to listen to the tractor, because as I've said previously in the other videos, is that I want to hear the tractor. I want to hear it tell me what it likes, what it doesn't like, and you're going to be able to if you're listening to it. When you're listening to it, what you're going to be hearing is you're going to be hearing the strain on the tracks. You're going to be hearing the turbo spool up. There's a lot that's going on. So let me actually focus on this and you'll start hearing it, okay? So nice and easy. I'm not burying the board in the ground. Whatever gets on the board gets on the board. I'm going to use the bubble in my belly that if I feel like I'm leaning to the left, I can, make it go to the right. If I feel like I'm leaning to the right, I can go to the left. But as you can see, I barely have any material on the board whatsoever, okay? So that's just first. So we're just making like a nice little pass. Just keep it barely like this. It'll load up. You get just enough on there where if there's a hole, it'll fill it in, okay? So we've got that first one. Now we're gonna do one with a little bit more cut in it, okay? I wanna make a really sharp turn, so I'm gonna hold it as hard as I can to the right, and you're gonna see that my right track will go backwards and my left track goes forward, because again, it's sensitive on the way that it's sensitive on how hard you push it. In front of me, it doesn't look too bad, okay? So let's go ahead and back it up just a titch. And I'm always looking behind me. I'm not just counting on the camera. The camera's there, camera's cool, it helps, but you want to be able to visually see everything. So if you're in that seat, you should be turning around and looking and knowing your surroundings. Knowing your surroundings is number one in any piece of equipment, because I'm telling you right now, if you hit somebody, they're dead, okay? And you're not gonna feel it. So just always being aware. Now that we're straight, I'm just gonna make one nice clean pass. I'm gonna put the board in the ground just a little bit. I'll load it up enough, but I'm not trying to push the world right now. Again, we're just getting used to this piece of equipment. We're in a 1.3 is our gear right now. And let's go ahead and start putting that board in the ground just enough to feel, okay? And I'm gonna load it up and then I'm gonna carry the material. So now I'm loading it up, and what I wanna do is start to carry it as I load it up. Carrying it meaning that I'm not just constantly pushing down. I'm gonna get some material and I'm gonna try to hold that material on the board. If I'm cutting, you'll see material falling off the board. If I'm filling, you're gonna see material coming off the board as well. So I'll rephrase it. As I'm cutting, you'll see it rolling and barreling off. As I'm filling, you'll see it lightly coming off, okay? So knowing how much force I'm pushing down, and I'm feeling that level in my body if I'm going forward or if I'm sitting level or what, but I'm going nice and slow and nice and easy, okay? A lot of things that people do wrong right off the top is that they start moving the joystick way too much. Let it eat. She's hungry, dude. Let her eat a little bit. She's got a lot of power. So as you can see, just nice and easy. Nice and easy. I could feel myself go up a little bit, so I kind of push down a little bit. I see myself coming down a little bit, I pull up a little bit, you know? It's all in that bubble in your belly, okay? Nice and easy. I mean, look at, super easy. So a lot of times when you're beginning running a dozer, they're gonna be having to have you knock down piles. So I wanna go over that. We've already kind of made a couple passes. The biggest thing with knocking down piles is don't eat too much, you know, just give it a little bit. You don't need to put this dang board all the way in the ground and think that you're gonna push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 piles, which is a super tin, so that's 80 yards of material. No, it's just like an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I'm gonna get some material on the board, okay? And this is where I'm gonna listen to her sing, okay? Loading up some material. I don't wanna spin no track. I don't wanna do anything like that. And I'm not being really jerky. All my movements are really, really easy, okay? And as you can see, I'm about 2 feet off the ground right now. So I went from having my board on the ground to right now I'm 2 feet off the ground, okay? And I'm being easy on the machine. I can maybe push it down a little bit so I'm about a foot off the ground, but I don't want to spin track. I don't want to do anything like that. I just want to knock this down without getting whoopy or anything like that, nice and easy. And then I'll come back and I'll push it again. I can come back and push it again. Remember, we're always just massaging the material. That's all we're doing. I know that I'm taking my hand, I just have done it for a long time. That's why I'm it's pretty easy for me. But I want to make sure if I'm starting to lean to the left, I can kind of move the board to the right. I want to make sure that I stay flat. Now, as you see, I'm lifting the board up just very slowly, and there's our fill. So I'm going to turn around, and then I'm going to push it going back that way just a little bit so that we can make sure that it's a nice clean pass. And as you saw, I wasn't getting thrown around in it or anything like that, so we know that it's a nice, beautiful pass. And the reason why it's a nice, beautiful pass is because I wasn't biting off more than I can chew, okay? So now we can kind of bite a little bit more, okay? So we're gonna, as you can see, I'm gonna load this board up. Now, why do we load up the board, okay? For one, we load up the board to carry material and to push material. Another reason why we load up the board is so that if there's any holes that I'm going through, that dirt that's loaded up on the board can fall into that hole, all right? So depending on the criteria is why you have the board loaded up, whether you're pushing dirt, whether you're carrying material, whatever you're doing. Now I'm just gonna throw a little curveball into this. Let's go ahead and roll the board to the right. And upon when I roll the board to the right, as a beginner, I know that I'm not cutting with my whole board. I'm only using half of my board to cut and the other half to just guide. So that's where you got to really realize, like, even sometimes when I'm pushing, my board may be on the ground, but I'm kind of pushing from one corner of the board more than the other corner. It's less surface that's like pushing on the ground, especially in hard material. So I'll cut a little bit with the right, then I'll come back and cut a little bit with the left. That will make it an even pass. So you got to just like, you've really got to just massage the way that it is. If it's really hard, just take little bites. So right now I have the left side of my boards a little bit deeper than the right side of my board because I'm cutting with the left, okay? So, and that's what's gonna allow me to heal this material to the right. Okay, so we'll speed her up a little bit. So now I'm just basically just barely gliding across the top. Now the right side of my board is knocking down that windrow. So it's just all in just that seat time and feeling it, listening to this machine, listening to it sing, tell me what it wants to do. And there's that, another clean, easy pass. Let's go over another one right now. A lot of times this happens. It actually happens to everybody. As you can see, the pass was nice and smooth, nice and clean, very, very easy. The next one is, what do you do with the Whoopty Doos? And how do you create these Whoopty Doos, okay? I'm gonna show you how you create a Whoopty Doo. A lot of guys, what they do, they'll get in the machine and they go to try to load the board up. Now, as you see, my tracks are I'm gonna start going down right there. I'm going down and I can feel the board loading up. And what they're doing is they're pulling up too high. So they try to compensate and then they pull up. By the time they pull up, now the tractor is going up and they try to, oh shoot, push back down. And you're going, oh my gosh. So now I'm gonna be chasing this Whoopty Doo thing that's just, you know, you'll start chasing it, trying to correct it. And that's not how you correct it, by chasing it, okay? So let's back up. You're gonna see how big these Whoopty Doos are because it kind of throws you around in the tractor. So we're gonna fix it right now. Okay, so there's that downside right there. Now I'm coming back up again. And it's not fun when you get into the Whoopty Doos. So the way that I do it is just like the big piles, okay? We gotta just basically break down the knuckle and we're gonna fill in the small, and then we'll break down that knuckle and fill in the small. Sometimes it takes you 2 tries, sometimes it takes you 3 tries. But the very first thing is not loading the board up. I'm gonna keep the board, I'm just gonna take a little bite, like I said, just a little tiny bite so I can get some material on the board, and then I'm gonna try not to correct it that much. What happens is when you're going fast, you're trying to keep up with the tractor. This is the point where you need to go slow in the tractor so you can keep up with it. As you see, I dropped my gear down to 1, okay? So now I can keep up with this piece of equipment, okay? So I'm just skimming it right now. I feel myself going down right there. You see it, guys. I'm going down right here, okay? So right when I feel myself, I'm just gonna lift just a titch, And again, sometimes it takes more than one pass. Now I'm coming up on that bump, but I'm going slow enough where I can somewhat manage it, just like that. So I was able to manage it, okay? I don't recommend, oh, just back drag over it. No, the machine's made to go forward. It's not made to go backwards. I mean, it can track backwards, but the cutting edge is faced a certain way on purpose. We could use back drag here and there, but remember that trunnion ball in the walk around, that thing comes apart, you're gonna be in some trouble, okay? So now we're just gonna push on out. We kind of went through the whoops and we cleaned them up. I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna make one more pass just to make sure those whoops are nice and flat, okay? Let me go ahead and speed this thing up a little bit. All right. Nice, clean. Again, I'm gonna kind of shake the board, get all that stuff off of it. Let's go ahead and spin her around. Nice, clean pass. Now, again, we're putting out, like, so this is another little aspect. Remember, gravity is your friend, guys. It's always easier to push going downhill than it is to push going uphill. Now, this is like probably a 3% slight uphill grade. Actually, it's actually 6% in my machine. So let's go ahead and get some material on this board, and we're gonna fix the rest of those Whoopty Doos. So we already knocked out about, I'd say 75% of them. And now that I've knocked out about 75% of them, I can just kind of get the last 25% and be done with it. So I can hear this machine running. I'm watching, making sure I'm not spinning my tracks. I could hear the turbo spooling up. I could feel like the grunt of the tracks like gripping, okay? And again, I'm always trying to make sure that I'm not too far leaning to the right or to the left, so I'm just consistently making sure I'm controlling that. Here comes the whoops. I'm gonna lift up just a little bit so I could fill these holes, but still have enough of the board to cut it. And there it is. I was able to fill the holes while I was able to cut the top of those last 25%, okay? We're gonna go ahead and take this straight off the edge as if, you know, I'm filling up onto an edge or something. So here we go. We'll take this path right off the edge. Boom, and there we are, just like that. So we've gone over, let me turn this throttle down for a second. We've gone over how to carry material, how to barely even move, like barely even like skim the top. We've gone over the Whoopty Doos. We've gone over keeping it in a low gear, how to adjust your gears, how to fix the Whoopty Doos. Remember, it's always like eating an elephant, just one bite at a time. For the last thing I do want to show you guys is when we're climbing up stuff or when we're backing off stuff, it gets very, like, it gets your stomach in a curl when you're teeter-tottering so much. So I'm going to give you a couple little pointers of even going up the face of something to also backing off of something, okay? The mound right now, I'd say, is about 5-6 foot tall. We're going to make it a little bit bigger as I come up to it. And I always like keeping my board on the ground anywhere I go because I can smooth the path out, so I'm not just like getting thrown around. But let's make this thing a little bit bigger, make it a little steeper. Okay. There we go. This thing's a lot steeper now. So as you see, I'm coming up. Now I know, and I want to lower my board down because that kind of puts the weight of my board down to help with like making it where I'm not going to feel like I'm going to fall backwards. Now as I go, I'm going to get to a point where I get that teeter-totter, like the center of my tractor is like getting ready to teeter. Now if I want to control it a little bit, I could use my ripper. I'm going to push my ripper down, which is going to lift the back end of my piece of equipment up, and it's going to, you know, help me balance it a little bit. And again, what if I don't want to ruin the face? Okay, well, let's just use the ripper to help balance it, okay? So I'm going to push myself. See how I'm able to kind of let myself get straight, like where I'm not so at an angle. Now I'm going to track forward just a little bit. As I'm tracking forward, I'm going to be pulling my ripper up just a titch, okay? So I'm going to track forward and pull that ripper up. So I'm not ruining the face, but I'm still able to keep that, see, look at, now there's that teeter going down, okay? Big teeter. Now I can lift up the top of my board, and now look at how I'm sitting. So we're gonna do the same thing, but going backwards. Imagine we're backing up and there's a big slope or something that we gotta back off the slope. I'm gonna reverse everything that I just did, okay? So I'm gonna back up. As I feel myself kind of going back, I'm gonna lower those rippers down to catch it. And those rippers are gonna catch on the ground, and as I keep tracking back, I'll lift the rippers up so I can control the teeter-totter, okay? So I'm gonna lift my board up a little bit. Now remember, I'm gonna be putting my board down too though. So tracking backwards. Another important thing, you wanna make sure it's straight. I don't wanna be tracking sideways off of something and put my equipment in a funky spot, okay? So here we go, I'm tracking backwards. I'm gonna start lowering those rippers all the way down, okay? The rippers are all the way down right now. There's that little teeter-totter. I'm gonna start putting my board down a little bit now to offset the weight of that, okay? Board's all the way down, and you can even use your board to push you backwards to the rippers too, okay? So I can use my board to push me backwards to the rippers. Okay, now I can lift my board up. Rippers are on the ground. Now I'm gonna lift up my rippers and look at how much steeper my equipment gets. See? So it's a little trick of the trade, okay? There's gonna be times where you gotta hurry up and do something that's an easy way. Track backwards, throw those rippers down, and track right onto like where those rippers are, and then use the rippers to your advantage. And you can do it with the board too, being able to push the board down to lift you back. So just depending on how steep it is, it can get scary sometimes. So, but it's fun, and that's why we do it. And yeah, that's a good size right there. So that's it, guys. That's the intro to the D4 Dozer. The biggest takeaway, I think, that a lot of people kind of get confused is they're too much on their joystick. Let the dozer eat. That's its job. Nice, easy movements. And if you got any other questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Thank you very much.